In tonight's Political Insider, breaking down Benghazi. The long-awaited testimony of former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton began on Capitol Hill today. What will the hearing mean for Clinton's campaign? For answers, we turn to our guest on Capitol Insider, Dave Levinthal, senior reporter with the Center for Public Integrity. Right out of the gate, the hearing started with fiery comments from both sides of the aisle.
So they set up this select committee with no rules, no deadline, and an unlimited budget. And they set them loose, Madam Secretary, because you're running for president.
There are people, frankly, in both parties who have suggested that this investigation is about you. Let me assure you it is not. This investigation is about 4 people who were killed representing our country on foreign soil.
All right, Clinton has tried to stay above the fray, but many of the Democrats on the panel are going after the committee, forcing a reaction from the right. What's the strategy here, Dave?
The strategy is, at least for Democrats, is to paint this as a totally political, dyed-in-the-wool witch hunt against Hillary Clinton and nothing else. You heard the comments from Elijah Cummings. There have been emails floating back and forth pretty much every half hour on the half hour from Democratic organizations, political committees, and the like that are trying to make that exact case. That's their strategy. But Republicans have been adamant saying, look, this is not about Hillary Clinton. Ultimately, this is indeed about 4 Americans who died, including Ambassador Christopher Stevens from the United States, and a failing from the State Department, which Hillary Clinton led, in terms of not providing enough security to make sure that those Americans were safe in Libya. So there's the divide there, Morris, and quite a gulf it is.
And before taking a lunch break, there was a heated exchange between Republican Trey Gowdy and Democrat Elijah Cummings about releasing the transcript of Sidney Blumenthal's testimony. Explain the importance of those documents.
Sidney Blumenthal, first of all, is a journalist. He's a very close friend and ally to Hillary Clinton. It's a very messy situation, but boiled down, here's somebody in Sidney Blumenthal who was able to get dozens and dozens of emails to Hillary Clinton. There were exchanges back and forth. Hillary Clinton is saying, look, this is unsolicited advice. Sometimes I listened to it, sometimes I ignored it, and sometimes I pass it along. Other times I didn't. But Republicans are making the case that here's somebody who is acting, in their opinion, as a political advisor who had business interests, they allege, in Libya, and somebody who is trying to press Hillary Clinton for selfish means. And also, too, they make the note that the ambassador himself did not have the same type of direct person-to-person email access that Sidney Blumenthal did. So a big, big fight over that, and one that raged for a couple of hours during the course of the day.
And Clinton is testifying a week after getting good poll numbers from the Democratic debate. What could be the impact from this hearing?
It largely depends on her performance. Democrats are hoping, and she certainly is hoping, Hillary Clinton that is, that this is going to be a strong performance, if you will, for her, that it's not going to affect her poll numbers. You got to remember, Morris, that she did testify not before this committee, but before Congress back in 2013. It was
and the famous, what difference does it make?
Exactly.
We remember that.
So that should be, without question, a warning to her and to Democrats that in the course of all these hours of proceedings, that something like that can be seized upon by your political opposition and taken and gotten a lot of traction and mileage out of, which still today you see political ads all about that. So there are pitfalls, but also an opportunity for Clinton to make a mark and have a strong showing and not have this really affect her politically at all.
Yeah, some of this has been riveting television. I'll be curious to see, as you will see, what happens after it's all said and done. Let's switch gears to Joe Biden. Yesterday, he announced he would not be entering the presidential race, but his speech sounded like something he would give if he were running. What did you make of it, Dave?
And that's what we were all saying, that, well, if Joe Biden was announcing that he was running, he'd largely be giving the same exact speech that he gave when he was announcing that he would not run. Look, Joe Biden wanted to run for president. He's run for president on 2 other occasions. He's been the vice president for 6.5, almost 7 years now. In his heart of hearts, did he want to run? I'm pretty sure he wanted to run. But at the same time, Morris, he faced some major, major obstacles, not the least of which is it's October right now. He said his window closed. Take him at his word. His window was closing in a major, major way. He didn't have the organization that Hillary Clinton does. He didn't have the money. His poll numbers were lagging. If he was polling 50, 60% right now without even jumping into the race, the equation might be different. But that just simply wasn't wasn't the case. And at this stage, with the primaries and the caucuses coming up early next year, it would have been a huge, huge monumental task for him to not only get into the race and be somewhat successful, but to ultimately defeat the juggernaut that is Hillary Clinton.
Now, while Biden said he was out, one thing he didn't give was an endorsement. In fact, some of his comments were a direct challenge to Hillary Clinton. Could Biden potentially damage her campaign?
It's hard to view a scenario where Joe Biden in and of himself is going to damage Hillary Clinton. He got a little dig in there, and he was jabbing at her a little bit, but at the same time, he is a Democrat. Joe Biden would want nothing more than to see a Democrat in office in 2016 going into 2017, and he certainly doesn't want to hurt Democrats' chances, whether it's Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders or anyone else who would be the Democratic nominee. Doesn't want to hurt them versus a Republican. Would not want to help Republicans. So it's probably going to be just a speed bump in the road and an opportunity for him in a moment of candor, and plenty of that on Joe Biden's end to get in a little word.
Dave, real quick before we go, Donald Trump said he was glad Biden wasn't running because he'd rather go against Clinton's, quote, bad record. Does Trump have a point here?
Well, it presupposes that Donald Trump will be the Republican nominee,
That's
which,
true.
of course, is a long way before that ever happens. And many Republicans hope that Donald Trump is going to do nothing but flame out over the next couple of months. But bottom line is that Hillary Clinton does have a formidable operation. She's an incredibly difficult candidate to run against, even though she's unpopular in some camps. She is wildly popular in others. And whether you love her or hate her or don't feel one way or another about her, she is a very, very tough politician who's got the wherewithal to take this all the way to November, and is going to be a very, very tough challenge for any of the Republicans, no matter who they are, who gets the Republican nomination.
It's good to get your insight. Dave Levinthal, senior reporter with the Center for Public Integrity. Thanks, Dave.
Appreciate it, Morris. Thank you.